colleagues and friends, it is an honour to stand here today at the pinnacle of our new SDLP's very successful conference here in Armagh, and to ask you all to please be upstanding as we welcome our party leader to the conference hall, as I invite him to make his leadership address. Colleagues and friends, Dr. Alasdair MacDonald.
Friends, delegates and distinguished guests, thank you very much. I don't know why I deserved it, or whether I deserved it or not, but throughout our debates and discussions over the last couple of days, a single theme has kept emerging: that we are entering a new phase of politics on the island of Ireland. Before I go there, though, I think it's important to let me take a few minutes to reflect on the heartbreaking events of a few days ago. 4 days ago, Mrs. Yvonne Black and her children, Kyle and Kyra, buried David, a much-loved husband and father, who was brutally murdered as he went to work. And the people behind this evil murder have nothing to offer us, politically or in any other way. There are many issues which politicians in Northern Ireland might divide in our communities. But on this core issue, we stand shoulder to shoulder in our condemnation of this heinous murder. The people behind this murder claim to carry out these acts in the name of Ireland. Have they learned nothing from our island's troubled past? Violence achieves nothing but pain, heartache, loss, and pits neighbour against neighbour. We in the SDLP have always believed that there's a better way to a better Ireland. Just as in the past, others have slowly come around to share our point of view, we will continue to do all that we can to persuade those out there in the political wilderness. Our view is simple. It's time for Ireland to regain its sense of pride, its sense of confidence as an island, as a nation, as a vital part of Europe, and a key player in the wider world. We in the SDLP have the vision and the ambition, serious ambition, for all the people of Ireland, from every tradition and every community, because we believe you deserve better. We have a vision of a society founded on progressive values where prosperity is encouraged, but financial institutions must operate ethically, where the state takes care of the sick, the elderly, the poor and the vulnerable, where every child is valued and a good quality education is guaranteed for all. My friends, I want to tell you I'm immensely proud of the political legacy that we have inherited. I am proud of the SDLP, the party you elected me to lead. I'm proud that we stand for compassion, respect, equality, social justice and prosperity. And I'm proud that we are now stronger than we've been in years. And I know that we will come through this new and challenging phase that we're facing, this new and challenging phase of politics, even stronger. Above all, I'm proud of the values that the SDLP brought to politics here a generation ago. Those values are eternal, even though we may express them differently over time. In the new phase of politics, in our ambition, I believe we must express our values in terms of respect, equality and prosperity for all. As the people of Carrickhill and North Belfast have shown us, respect has got the potential to be the master key to unlocking entrenched positions. A simple request for respect threatens nobody. And if reciprocated, that is the critical element. It can be key to a much wider and deeper process of reconciliation. Respect touches upon everything we do. Any society which wants people to enjoy respect and equality can't let government push through savage welfare cuts. Cuts that will consolidate and entrench inequality for a generation. There's a tough battle to be fought out there in social justice, for and on behalf of all the marginalised, the disrespected and the disadvantaged in our communities. We can win this battle, and I promise you, we will win this battle. And I want to commend Mark H. Durkin for the sterling job and the leadership he's giving us on that battle. Last year, you elected me to lead this great party of ours. You put your trust in me to renew the SDLP, and I intend to do so. Today, I'm delighted to tell you that the SDLP fight back is well underway. We are re-energised, and we're well prepared for the electoral battle ahead. And we're not just increasing our presence in places like this great city of Armagh, where the first ever Lord Mayor of Armagh is our very own Sharon Haughey. But we're building that renewed presence right across the north and beyond. We now have some 40 new local representatives enthusiastically assisting and supporting our existing councillors and MLAs and establishing good representation in those areas where we lacked a presence. We have vibrant and vital groups in Dublin, in London and in Brussels, supporting the party with their time, their money and their ideas. We are on the move again. The truth is that everyone inside this room and outside it knows it. We're now stronger than we were a year ago. A resurgent SDLP has taken on the tough issues, rejecting the stagnation of a complacent and paralysed executive at Stormont. Let there be no mistake about this. Doing that and taking on that battle has major implications, not just for you, our members. It has major implications for Dublin, for London, and indeed major implications for everyone with an interest in the future well-being of this island. 14 long years ago, we recast our political relationships within these islands to create a peace process. Our devolved institutions have established the basic stability threshold from which we can make real social and economic progress. But in order to realise our full potential, I believe that further recasting of relationships is necessary. I believe that we now need a prosperity process which will provide a better life for all of our people. We need a new dynamic relationship with government in London that allows us maximum devolved control of our own economic destiny and provides us with all the tools necessary to rebalance our economy. We need a new dynamic relationship with government in Dublin that allows us to maximise the full potential of North-South cooperation and to widen and deepen the all-island economy at every level. For us, there can be no boundary between peace and prosperity. For us, the full potential of the Good Friday Agreement will only be realised when we have created prosperity and a better quality of life for all our people. Since the Assembly reconvened in September, the SDLP has already made a marked difference. When the DUP and Sinn Féin get it wrong, we will challenge them. And we will challenge their stagnant strategies on the very floor of the Assembly. You will have noticed our work in calling Nelson McCausland to account on parades and on the Welfare Reform Bill. You will have noticed our work in actually having some decisions made in the Executive. And both these have sent out a clear message about the way the SDLP is going to operate from here on in. We will bring new ideas to the Assembly and to the Executive in the form of private members' bills if we can't get them to produce their own. We are a watchdog within the Executive, and through our Minister, Alec Atwood, we will face every difficult decision head on. And I want to warn you, our watchdog's bite is every bit as bad as his bark. Peter, our First Minister, uses sweet and honeyed words about normalising Stormont and about moving out of the old orange and green politics to the left and to the right as a means of tricking voters into somehow thinking that a return to unionist domination under Peter is in their best interest. That's not innovation. By the fear not only of what the SDLP are up to, but the fear of upsetting their new bedfellows in the DUP. And you will have watched and seen all the phony fights and the false start-ups and the mock arguments that they've got into over the last couple of months. They're nothing more than a fig leaf, designed to reassure the hardliners on both sides that the DUP and Sinn Féin are still the tough guys, the tough kids in the playground. Well, let me tell them, the time for playing schoolboy politics has long gone. My friends, in our view, all politics should be based on equality. And that's a principle that this party, the SDLP, has held dear since its foundation. But I want to ask you something. Do you remember the Sinn Féin Ireland of Equals? Do you remember how quickly it was forgotten by Conor Murphy when he was running Northern Ireland Water? According to the Fair Employment Agency, the Tribunal, he rejected a candidate for the chair of Northern Ireland Water. Why? Because the candidate was a Protestant. And since that, 2 more ministers from that party now stand accused of falling far short of what is required in making honest appointments to public bodies. How's that for respect? How's that for equality? How's that for civil rights? It's just many of you know Sinn Féin work every day trying to rewrite history. They will lay claim, if they could, to the civil rights movement, just like they corrupted the term Republican, during their 40 years of a murderous campaign. But let me tell you, in my opinion, they sullied both these great titans, these great ideals. Conference, we're not going to stand for it. The SDLP always was, and always will be, the party of civil rights. Civil rights for all, not jobs for the boys. And serious questions must also be asked of the Alliance Party. Because ever since they were gerrymandered into 2 seats at the executive table by Peter and Martin, David Ford and his chaps have become the lapdogs of the 2 big boys. How else can you explain their vote against a human rights assessment of the impact of the welfare reform? How else can you explain their attack on the mobility of third-level students? I'll tell you one thing, you won't explain it in terms of principle. This kind of paralysis can never deliver anything for our society. We have no interest whatsoever in perpetuating paralysis. We will continue to engage with and listen to and work with civic and business communities out there, with the trade unions, the community and voluntary sectors, so that we better understand the issues that continue to betray the tremendous potential which exists in our community in Northern Ireland. On top of the list, no surprise, is jobs. Top of the list is sustainable job creation. And protecting our small businesses is at the core of that issue. We reject the assertions by the executive that they're doing all they can to create jobs. The economic package just announced with great fanfare is a welcome step. And it's only right that the executive refocuses spending in the direction of job creation. But when you scratch the surface, specific details are very few and far between. And there's very little to nothing in the way of new ideas or new money. It seems to be old money recycled and rewrapped. And if they're doing all they can to protect and create jobs, then, in my opinion, they're not up to the job. And if they're not doing all they can, then shame on them, because a much greater effort is needed to ensure that we sustain as many jobs as possible out there. What our people, particularly our young people, really need is hope. And it's scarce enough out there. They need hope for their future. They need hope that they won't find themselves having to borrow money, more money, to buy a plane ticket to far-off shores like Australia in search of a living and in search of work. It doesn't have to be like this. Jobs can be created. And in my opinion, jobs must be created. And there are many tried and tested ideas in the Green New Deal with the potential to create thousands of new jobs. And a small reduction, for instance, on fuel duty would save hundreds of jobs and create hundreds more. Again, the jobs potential from tourism is enormous. The visitors we need to build a thriving tourist industry are already coming onto the island of Ireland. 7 million of them every year. 5 million plus come in through Dublin. Less than an hour's drive from Armagh. But how many of those 5 million ever get it across the border? We need to get them across the border. In our town centres, we have small retail businesses going to the wall. Remember, protecting and supporting these businesses protects jobs and protects the very communities they serve. That's why the SDLP will be rolling out our own regeneration plans for a number of these urban centres and rural towns and communities. And it's quite simply about taking the best of the ideas that are out there, plenty of reports, tons of them, and winning some local buy-in for an action plan. Our towns and communities across the north face another and more immediate threat. Our elderly, our disabled, our disadvantaged are all at their wits' end, and I have them in my office every day, wondering how they're going to afford to face the next day, with the cuts already there and the more savage cuts to come. These cuts that the Tories are trying to impose here are driving people over the edge. This is totally and utterly unacceptable. Yes, we will readily admit there is a case for reform of the welfare system, to limit abuses, and to focus the available money on those most in need, and nobody would dispute that. But you know, and I know, that that's not what this is all about. This reform is about something else. We here have a much higher dependency on welfare, and for a variety of valid reasons. We have decades of underinvestment. We have severe under-provision of childcare. We have the legacy of the Troubles, with many thousands of people out there still suffering from the injuries. We have a debilitating physical and mental distress as a result of a needless conflict. And now again, on top of all that, we have Ian Duncan Smith proposing a further benefit, a benefit cut off after the birth of a second child. The last time we heard that was before my time. It was from Basil Brooke, I think, in the 40s. Delegates, this makes me angry. But it also makes me angry to hear the verbal somersaults of Sinn Féin spokesmen trying to convince voters that they're really against the welfare reform bill, while all the time doing little or nothing to oppose it. And I want to send a simple message here today to the Malik Maskies and the Bramacans. If they're really against the welfare reform bill, all they have to do is vote against it. Sometimes politics can be that simple. Clarity and a bit of certainty about politics. People want a bit of clarity and certainty about their children's education. People worry as to whether their child will be able to get a free preschool place in their own neighbourhood, whether the local primary school will have a place for their child, and whether the school will be properly resourced or not. And this is, I'm talking to you on a day when thousands of 10 and 11-year-olds are sitting on official exams. Many of them doing these exams 4 Saturdays in a row. Parents are asking me, when will this election fiasco ever end? I want you to know that we're working to do all that we can to ensure that parents' expectations in education are met. People need clarity and certainty about their health care too. And make no mistake, the SDLP is firmly focused on spotting and stamping out the creeping privatisation that's attempting to take place in our health service. And we won't shy away from taking the fight right to the House of Commons in Westminster. And we go to Westminster, where there's a job to be done. It's easy not going there, but people's interests are to be protected. And it's always better to have influence on the inside than posturing and posing on the outside. And when we're there, we build influence wherever we go. And you only have to look at the work that Margaret Ritchie is doing, working tirelessly for farmers on the DEFRA Committee at Westminster. Mark Durkin has done a Trojan job, fighting for stronger credit unions and better regulation of banks, and God knows we need that. I have made some efforts myself on your behalf to secure the reduction and devolution of air passenger duty. And we will continue to work there at Westminster and continue to work closely with our friends, particularly the Shadow Secretary of State, Vernon Coper, who was a privilege to hear speak to us this morning. Vernon has always been a friend of the SDLP, as long as I have known him. Delegates, the British-Irish East-West relationship is important, but the North-South relationships and further development are absolutely vital. North-South works because the engagement ensures that the people in the South, business community and otherwise, recognise and see firsthand the opportunities in the North. They see our strengths and our weaknesses economically, socially, politically and culturally. They know where we can complement each other. They know where we can do business. North-South development makes absolute sense in so many areas of our lives. We firmly believe that this island that we live on, the island of Ireland, can be so much more prosperous as a result, and we know that we could greatly increase North-South development. And that the issues we're looking at are providing space for cross-border healthcare, lots of opportunity, cross-border education development, shared telecommunications, common energy strategy. These are only a few. But we must work together, North and South, in the mutual interests of the whole island. And I would just ask people to take a particular look at the all-island energy market and what it has done for us. In terms of North-South development and North-South links, there's no greater symbol than the narrow water bridge. And let me just remind you, we had a few Johnny-come-latelys popping up for pictures when it was announced. But there's no greater symbol than that narrow water bridge as far as I'm concerned. But our people in South Down, Warren Point, were fighting for that as far back as the 1970s. We proposed that bridge way back in the middle 70s. And can I pay tribute to all of our representatives, all of the members and the party activists, far too numerous to mention, who argued for and fought for, and every time I met them they did my head in, demanding that the narrow water bridge was the most important thing in cross-border development. Thank you for doing that. The narrow water bridge is a victory for the SDLP, a victory for its values, and in years to come, the narrow water bridge will stand as a proud symbol of unity. Unity of common sense, common purpose. 14 years after we proposed it, the North-South Parliamentary Association has finally happened, bringing together legislators from Stormont and the Oireachtas. And I want to welcome a number of people from the Oireachtas here today. But we find common cause on serious issues that affect the whole island. It was a privilege to be there a few weeks back at the first meeting of that, even though it was the DUP insisted that it be in blackout mode, but we still had the meeting. Within the North, the job of driving North-South cooperation is increasingly being left to us. And in my mind, it's not enough to have ministers in the executive going through the motions, going to the odd meeting, ticking the boxes. We need to realise the practical mutual benefits, as is being done currently with paediatric congenital cardiac surgery. This can be done in a many wider aspects of the healthcare field. There are many opportunities. The other thing that distresses me is the manifest reluctance of Arlene Foster to engage with Leah Varadkar's plans for the gallery. A year-long tourist drive aimed at bringing home Ireland's global diaspora. Arlene was staggering in her lack of vision. The potential tourist revenue that could have been generated for the North on the back of the gathering seemed to pass her by. North-South cooperation, though, is far too important to be left to the vagaries of party interests or party politics. But we welcome the fact that others now recognise there's more to achieve. But the decades of democratic struggle show that when Dublin political parties are at one and working in cooperation with us, real progress can be achieved. Peace and progress have been well served in previous days and in previous times by a united approach. And in the new phase of Irish politics, now opening up, we will be asking all the parties of democratic nationalism on the island of Ireland to reaffirm their commitment to a joint approach to building a better future for all on the island. And that's the future that I want to see is one that has respect, equality, reconciliation, social justice and prosperity at its core. It's only through that unity of purpose in the present that we can ever hope for a national unity in the future. On the 1st of January, Ireland will take over the presidency of the European Union's Council once again. We're well advanced in our dialogue and our discussions with Dublin about how we can work together to ensure the whole island benefits from the massive opportunity that this stewardship offers. We in the SDLP are proud and committed Europeans, as well as being proud Irish men and women. When we look to Eastern Europe and the Balkans, the EU has proved to be one of the great peace builders of our time. And that was recognised last month by the awarding of the Nobel Peace Prize. Our party was once led by another of the great peace builders of our time, recognised not just with the Nobel Prize, but recently also a papal knighthood. I am humbled. Take that moment to acknowledge the presence of our hero and friend John Hume here today. But he was magnificent, and we will never be able to repay or even thank him for the work that he did. We have a lot to offer Europe, both as a party and as a nation. Northern Ireland deserves so much better than a group of anti-European MEPs half-heartedly representing us, when we could be taking much more and making much more out of our position there. We could be making so much more, particularly in terms of agriculture and the common agricultural policy reform. We could be making much more in a whole range of research and development opportunities, and Horizon 2020 is just round the corner. But let me tell you here and now, in talking to colleagues right across the party, the SDLP is determined to win back our European seat in 2014. And let me tell you that if I know the mood of this party, or if I can take the mood of this party at present, I know we will do that. Conference, everything I'm saying and everything I have said points in one direction. We're moving into a new phase of politics on this island. And let's be clear, we will not be thwarted by the evil attempts of a tiny minority, just as we wouldn't allow ourselves to be thwarted in the past. In my opinion, it's time now for a real reconciliation and prosperity process, which has been so neglected to begin. We need that reconciliation. Victims deserve the truth. And if Sinn Féin, and they make a lot of to-do about a process of reconciliation, let them start that by telling the truth. The protection of our peace process has been used for far too long as a barrier to facing up to the need for truth and reconciliation. Truth and reconciliation is an issue that really matters to so many of our people out there. And we cannot wait any longer for that to start moving. We need real, meaningful, honest reconciliation. But behind that, we also need effective government. And we've had enough gestures and photo calls at sporting events from Peter and Martin. Unless those gestures and photo calls are backed up with sustained leadership and genuine, credible moves towards long-term reconciliation, they're only a charade. They're seen as cynical, and they in fact serve more as a barrier to meaningful reconciliation for the people of the North. Where, Peter, where, Mark, where is meaningful progress on the cohesion and sharing and integration strategy? I'll leave them to answer that. The SDLP is very clear. We want to make full use of our hard-won peace and stability to move on and create equality and prosperity for all. We want to recast our relationships to give us the powers needed to create prosperity. And in this new phase, we will begin to see the shape of a new Ireland emerging. A very different Ireland from the Ireland of the past, or the one we know today. But we will need to work hard to make sure it's the new Ireland that we have campaigned for throughout our party's history. A prosperous new Ireland for all, that treasures all the children of this island equally, where fear is removed, and where we can proactively reach out to the unionist community to show that as proud and confident Irish men and women, we fully respect our sense of Britishness. And more than that, far beyond flags and labels, we respect and will fight for their and their families' right to live at peace in a land of prosperity, of equality, and of social justice. So today, friends, I have an ask of you. It sounds simple, but it's really very big. I want to ask each of you, each and every one of you, to go back to your constituencies, your branches, your communities, and work with me to rebuild the SDLP and do all that is necessary to get us back at the heart of government again, because that's where we belong. It won't work if we're not there. I just want to tell you, and I want to warn you, that in days to come, we will be proud to look back on our work and the achievements we've made for all the people on this island, and finally say, in the words yearned for in our party's history, we have overcome.